Hey guys, Mad Science here, and today, I'm hopping back in for day number 8 of r/malicious compliance, where I have found a few stories, and some of the other ones I'm going to be choosing today are just going to be, I choose them. So, first story that I found is, a bar near me found a hilarious loophole to get around noise complaints and keep hosting live music. Okay. A bar in town used to host live bands all the time until one of the neighbors complained about the noise. It turns out the zoning rules didn't allow them to have live music, and they almost got shut down. The bar owner read over zoning rules and notices that the wording forbade them to have live music indoors, but they could have it outdoors. So they moved the stage to the patio section, where it would be even louder for the neighbors and still be legal. They still have live music sometimes, but not nearly as often as they used to. Don't want to push their luck, I guess. Just nice. That's just funny. Just simple. Just like, oh, you're not allowed to have live music indoors because of the zoning rules, but outdoors is perfectly fine. And the one area that's outdoors that's still part of this bar is the patio section, closer to the neighbor that made the complaint. That is gold. The end to a free decade of Netflix. Between 8 and 10 years ago, I received an email welcoming me to Netflix. That was a bit concerning since I hadn't signed up, so I contacted the company. They told me someone must have accidentally used my email when they created an account. Our last names were the same, and our first initial. I said, "Oh, no problem. You must have additional contact information for them besides my email. Could you remove my email from the account and let them know so they can fix?" Well, immediately that was a big problem for Netflix, and well, no, they couldn't remove the email because it was the only one they had for the account, and how did they even know that it was mine? I said, "Give me your email address and start talking. I will email you the words as they come out of your mouth." That wasn't good enough proof. That wasn't good enough for proof somehow. More likely, I was in the other person's Gmail account asking to not have Netflix. Like, who wouldn't want Netflix? What they finally ended up doing was changing the account password so that when the customer went to log back in, they wouldn't be able to, and would need to do a password reset by calling Netflix, and then they would confirm the email address. I kept getting Netflix emails, so that didn't work. I called again. Same again. Didn't work. I changed the password several times myself because I could use the forgot password function and get an email to reset it, but that didn't work. I don't know how they kept getting the new password without updating an email address, and I didn't really care at this point. For the last 8 to 10 years, I have had Netflix on everything I own. I have signed in on hotel televisions, used it on my phone, my Xboxes, my kid uses it. I only ever signed in under family and told them to do the same. The entire history in family is us. The other logins, Fred, Softy, and Lilia, accumulated history. I would occasionally look because curious. Never did a single new show appear in the family watch history because that wasn't me. Well, I woke up this morning to an email from Netflix telling me that this email address was no longer associated with that account, and if I had any questions, etc. Thank you, Softy. It has been an amazing run, and I'm not sure why you gave me free Netflix for the last decade, but I think you are amazing. TLDR, I asked Netflix to remove my email address from my account that was not mine, that I did not pay for. They were not because they needed an email associated with an account. It stayed that way for 10 years and I used the account for free. That's just, but that's brilliant. It's just like, hey, Netflix. You want free Netflix? Have someone make an account using your email on accident. Okay. And let's continue on with more technology-based stuff here. Was told to actually read the policy. So I did. I worked for an office and we had an 8-week busy season with mandatory overtime, 12 to 14 hours per day. During this time, the company agrees to reimburse us for dinner up to $13 per meal. We just have to submit a claim with our receipts at the end of the busy season. Food options around my work aren't great, so I usually bought my dinner from home. But sometimes I was too tired to cook after a long day, so out of the 8 weeks, I purchased maybe 10 meals. 3 of those meals, I spent $13.50, going 50 cents over the limit. This resulted in a whopping $1.50 overage, which my manager said was no big deal because I could include on my expense claim. He signed off on it and everything. A few days after I submitted my report, head office emailed me saying they rejected my expense claim and that I could resubmit after I removed the $1.50 overage. I wrote back saying my manager was fine with the $1.50 overage and even signed off on it. And they responded by telling me they do not allow overages under any circumstances. That the $1.50 must be removed or they wouldn't approve any of my meal expenses. They ended their email with the advice that I should actually read the company policy next time. Fine. Alright. And I was wrong. So I decided I'd read the policy very thoroughly before redoing my expense claim. Yes, the policy stated a $13 per maximum on purchased meals. Oh, and what's this? The policy also allows a $10 per diem for meals you bring from home. I very happily removed the $1.50 overage and added an additional $300 for the 30 meals I brought from home. I should read the company policy more often. Thank you for the gold benevolent. Okay. Some of you are asking if I got paid the $300, and the answer is yes. Many are suggesting the person was sincerely trying to help me out, but I'm not 100% sure because they were so snippy in their email. Also, when we were emailed the meal policy at the beginning of busy season, there was no mention of the per diem, and no one else in my department knew about it. Either way, I made sure to thank them just in case they were being sincere, and I was just too jaded about it. I cannot read sometimes, apparently. But that's what happens when you say, read the policy. Someone does it and gets paid more than they need to. Okay, we're going to do one more. You've been randomly selected. This happened about 3 years ago while going through an airport in the US. I walked through the metal detector, something must have beeped and they needed to pat me down. After a thorough pat down, I put my shoes on and start to walk over to my bag. A TSA agent stops me and says, "You've been randomly selected, please step into the body scanner." Really? I was polite, but said that I really don't want to get into the body scanner and asked if there was another way. The agent said I could get a pat down. I said, well, I just got a pat down, so they angrily told me to pick an option. So I took 2 steps backwards to the woman who just pat me down 30 seconds ago and spread them again. While she was patting me down, I asked her if she found anything new. She stared daggers at me, but let me go. You've been randomly selected for another pat down. or a body scan. Again, it's just like, do you want a second pat down or not? Or do you want to go to jail for refusing to select one of the 2 options because you got randomly selected? Like, yeah, that's just silly. It's like, the guy literally sees you get pat down, and it's like, oh, you've been randomly selected. Like, oh, you are a high risk person, apparently. Okay, and with that, I'm going to end today's episode here. Links will be in the description to my main channel and this channel. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when the next video comes out. A ding, ding. I'm Mad Scientist,